The 2022 season for the Pittsburgh Steelers, that they found themselves in unfamiliar territory, which is right smack dab in the middle of a rebuild, with offensive line issues, bringing in a rookie quarterback. The Steelers didn't look great early on, but like a lot of Mike Tomlin teams do, they got better. The schedule eased up, and they finished with a lot of people thought was impossible at a 9-8 record. Looking at 2023, the Steelers look to take another step in the right direction. Looking at everything that they have, their quarterback's a year older. They upgraded some of the offensive talent. The Steelers look to have a good season in 2023. Today, we got Kaleb Everhsrt here from Steeler Nation and 3 Point Stance podcast, looking to talk all things Pittsburgh Steelers, where we can get better, where the season may take us. So let's get into this. Kaleb, what's going on, my man?
Hanging out in South Dakota over here.
Gotcha. I appreciate you taking the time to join us on Big B Sports Talk, talking Pittsburgh Steelers again. Everybody, as always, remember to like, comment on the podcast. I appreciate it. Again, we're on YouTube at Big B Sports Talk and anywhere you get your podcast. So, just jumping right into this thing, man. The Steelers last year, the season started off crazy.
Yep.
It wasn't a good feeling as a Steeler fan. Let's just say that. A lot of things went wrong. Offensive line issues, quarterback issues, big play issues, or giving up big plays on the defense. It started off as a mess, and things got better. So, taking a look at that and looking at 2023, let's start off with the quarterback. And a lot of people have this question, not only in Pittsburgh, as far as Pittsburgh Steeler fans, but nationwide. Is Kenny Pickett the guy for the future?
But I think a lot of that's going to be that story is going to be told this year. I think he's got too much of a drive to be great, not be the guy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He kind of like I've kind of compared his work ethic to it's a little Tom Brady esque in a
Okay.
sense. Like he's always out there. Like you see the Deshaun Watsons out in Paris. Meanwhile, Kenny Pickett's working with his quarterback coach, trying to be, the best version of Kenny.
Got it. Makes sense. Yeah, a lot of things last year. I mean, everybody they bashed on him and said, "Oh, well, he does this. He throws a lot of interceptions, and he did early." And I go, "But that's a thing that a lot of quarterbacks do early on in their career. Rookie quarterbacks. I mean, they throw interceptions. I mean, the league takes a little bit of an adjustment, and it's almost like the NFL world wouldn't give Kenny Pickett that opportunity to take that progression, to make those mistakes, because in the second half of the season, he didn't do that. He played well. And it's almost like people were wanting him to fail. And when he got better, they wouldn't take that into account. I think that's something that, a lot of Steeler fans are starting to regret. Just the people that I've talked to, is that the NFL world won't give Kenny Pickett an opportunity to be great.
As far as the interception totals from last year, I mean, like you probably take four of those away from tip balls or,
Absolutely.
I think there was a Hail Mary at the end of the Jets game. Then there's the one at the Dolphins game, end of the Dolphins game, which he kind of forced that one, so that one is on him. But I mean, his numbers are, they are what they are. They're what I think 7 interceptions or 7 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, something like that.
Right.
But on top of that, I think he had 5 or 6 rushing touchdowns, I believe. And I mean, he showed up when it mattered most.
He did.
Um, he didn't flinch in the face of adversity, I guess.
Nope.
And we've seen that for the last 20 years as a Steelers fans with Ben. And I don't think he missed a beat in that. And I think that's what really showed that he can be the franchise quarterback is whenever the game was on the line against the Raiders and then the next week against the Ravens, which is probably, always one of our biggest games of the year.
Absolutely.
And he did it in Baltimore and just drove right down the field. made all the passes he needed to make. That Steven Sims pass may have been his best throw all season
Yep.
up the middle, where and Sims made a nice grab on that too. The interceptions, they don't bother me. He's trying to, I think he said it in an interview too, because a reporter asked him the question. They're like, "Oh, are you upset with the interceptions or forcing the ball downfield?" And he got upset. Like, are you asking me if I'm upset that I'm trying to force the ball downfield to try and win the game?
Perfect answer.
Yeah,
Perfect
like that.
answer.
He's got a winning mentality. Obviously, he was at Pitt for 5 years, um, and he helped build that program to win the ACC championship, which isn't a slouch division in college.
Nope.
Um, and it's all going to be Canada. I know we keep saying it, and can Kenny do this? It's going to be depending on what Matt Canada calls, because his route concepts last year were lazy. Um, but he has no excuse anymore. I mean, there's three weapons in the tight end room. There's five weapons in the receiver room. You got potentially three weapons in the running back room if
Right.
Alfonso Graham makes the team. But then you got Jalen Warren and Najee Harris,
Right.
and then you pick up a top five left guard in free agency in Isaac Seumalo, draft Broderick Jones. I mean, the sky's the limit for the offense,
So we
and
got,
hopefully,
yeah, absolutely. We had an opportunity here to be really good on the offensive side of the ball. And I'll get to the skill positions here in a minute, but yeah, I think a lot of times, and being an old offensive lineman myself, a lot of this is play calling. What they can and can't do with play calling kind of depends on how good the offensive line is. So, one question that I've asked everybody, and I keep stressing it, and people are fighting me back on it, and I don't know why they are, is with the upgraded offensive line, will the play calling get better from Matt Canada? Because I believe that it can. I believe some of the things that he didn't do or wouldn't do is because of, yeah, you know what? The offensive line can't hold up. We can't do this. We can't do that. But with improved talent on the offensive line through the draft, through free agency, I believe the play calling, number one, it has to get better. Otherwise, he can't be here anymore. I go, but do you
yeah.
think that the play calling will get better with the improved offensive line play?
See, and that's so that we know they want to run the ball, so that's
Right,
going to be the emphasis on the play
right.
calling. So hopefully, with a better offensive line, we implement the play action a ton more, because
Absolutely.
we weren't doing that last year
No.
until I think we kind of splashed it in at the end of the season, but it still wasn't what we should have been doing. Um, yeah, obviously the offensive line played a lot better the second half of the year. And there was a lot of new pieces on the offensive line, so they were learning each other. I think that was something we talked about with Kevin Dotson. He brought that up. He was like, "Yeah, Kevin was essentially a new starter. I mean, he had started games for us, but that was his first season as a full starter.
Right,
Then you have Dan, who started the year before, but then
right.
Kevin was new to him, next to him, because he had Trey Turner the year prior, I believe, at left guard." And then I think who was our? I'm trying to think, because we had Kendrick Green, we had trying to think of the 2020 offensive line. You'd think I'd remember that atrocity, but
Yeah, it
um,
was bad.
but yeah, I mean, you had all those new faces with James Daniels, Mason Cole, Chooks obviously is a mainstay, and I think he's extremely underrated.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, obviously you saw a little fall off with Dan Moore. Dotson was hit or miss. Mason Cole is steady. He was just hurt, so I think we'll see a big step up from him. Isaac Seumalo is going to be a monster.
Yep.
And then you got to
Absolutely.
think. I mean, we picked up Nate Herbig
Yep.
in free agency. We have Kevin Dotson as a backup
Yep.
for now, at least. And who knows? Maybe they'll go and sign my co-host fresh off the USFL championship he just won.
Absolutely.
but
Absolutely.
but as far as the play calling goes, I mean, I think obviously we know it's going to be a running first football team. Um, I think Canada's going to have to design plays for Calvin Austin, who we didn't get to see last year.
Yep.
You got Allen Robinson now. George Pickens needs the ball more.
Yep.
And then you got Darnell Watt. Like it's just loaded. Like
It's definitely loaded. It is absolutely loaded. And that kind of gets me into the next, because I think the Steelers' skill position, when you just talk about skill position rooms, say running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, uh, um, I just think that when you take it overall, I think the Steelers have a top 5 skill position in the National Football League. Here's the one person that nobody's talking about is Deontay Johnson, because he didn't score a
yep,
touchdown last year. I know a lot of that was because he didn't get a lot of off-season work with Kenny Pickett. I think people don't realize how key that is when they don't work together. Well, him and George Pickens did get to work together on the scout team and early on in training camp. They got a lot of work together. A whole offseason, Deontay Johnson is an elite. Let me repeat that. An elite route runner. Absolutely.
yep.
And for people not to really understand that or think that he has taken this huge drop off, look, yeah, he didn't score a touchdown last year, and I get it, and that's problematic. But is it all on him? Throwing jump passes to him in the end zone is not really his forte. Let's figure out some other ways to get him the ball in the end zone. So I think the Steelers, when you just take the totality of the skill position, running back, wide receiver, tight end, it's top 5 in the league, man. What do you think?
I completely agree with you. Like I consider Deontay Johnson a top 5 route runner in the league. His separation is ridiculous. Yeah, he'll drop it here and there, but he opens up so much stuff for the
Yes,
offense because he gets open so much. You have to put an extra guy on him. And then now, I mean, with the emergence of George Pickens, that's a guy that's gonna need extra attention. So then
absolutely.
between those two, I think George Pickens is gonna hopefully, worst case, I think he'll be a top 15 receiver this year. Best case, he'll be top 5,
Yep.
depending on how much we throw the ball, everything like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, and then you brought up the jump balls in the red zone. He doesn't need to even worry about that anymore
No.
because you can just line up Allen Robinson on the outside, George Pickens on the other side. Then you can have Deontay in the slot and let him, work his magic that way.
Or
Which I
you could have Darnell Washington. You know what?
Washington,
We'll just line
yeah,
him up at tight end on the other
yeah.
side and see what you do with it. Let's just see
Yeah,
what you do.
because yeah, you can put 3 people on him. He might still come down with it, and then you got Pat,
Exactly. Exactly.
and he's got some of the best hands on.
Absolutely.
Probably he's got top 5 hands as far as tight ends go in the NFL.
Yeah.
There's not.
Yeah.
I mean, he came up clutch in so many of those last 2-minute drives, like in the
Yes.
Raiders and Ravens games. I remember. I think it was the Raiders game. He had that one catch where he toe tapped the sideline
Yep.
too. I think he was falling down. I mean, he's crucial. I think he's got the potential to be a top 2 tight end in the NFL.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then obviously you throw in Darnell Washington, who's been, he's 6'7", 6'8", maybe, and he loves to block.
Yes. Yes.
Like coming from Georgia, where they have Brock Bowers, he is okay with being the second guy, so you're not gonna have to worry about like drama in the tight end room or
Correct.
not getting enough targets because he just wants to win and he's okay with blocking and annihilating people. And then
Absolutely.
you throw in Connor Hayward, so you got Pat who's 6'4", 250, can catch anything, and is a great route runner too.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Darnell, which he ran a 4.640. He's 6'8", not afraid to block anybody, and you can just throw it up to him.
Yep.
And then you got shifty Connor Hayward, which I think he's going to be more used as a. He's going to be kind of like that. You remember when we had Will Johnson because he converted from
Absolutely.
tight end to fullback,
Yep.
and he had really good hands. I think he's not obviously not the same size, but I think that's kind of what we could see from Connor. And that's just tight end room. We haven't even really talked about the rest of the receiver room, the running
Nope.
backs. We got Calvin Austin, who, in my opinion, is faster than his 4.340 that they
He
timed him at
is.
the combine. And then you got Hakeem Butler.
Yep.
I think he can make the team. And then you got Miles Boykin. He's solid. Gunnar Olszewski's probably going to be on the way out, unless he's just proven himself on special teams where he's kind of like Benny Snell. You can't cut him, because I think Anthony McFarland should have made the team over Benny last year. But
Right.
Benny was such a contributor on
I was
special
just gonna
teams.
say he was.
Yep. And then the running backs, obviously, you got Jalen Warren, who's very slept on. I'm tired of seeing Pittsburgh getting linked to a second running back in free agency. I think the latest talk is Kareem Hunt.
Happened
It
today.
was
Yeah.
yeah. the before that it was Leonard Fournette, and then I think there was even Dalvin Cook rumbling. It was like we don't need it.
No.
I mean, it would be nice. It would be nice. Trust it would be, but
Well,
we don't need it.
my thing about the Kareem Hunt thing is that Kareem Hunt is not the guy that he was 5 years ago that everybody
Yeah.
remembers that was a top 5 running back in the league. He is not that guy anymore. Now,
Yep.
can he help the Steelers? Absolutely. If he still can play, which I think he can, he could help the Steelers. But at the same time, he's going to have to do some other things. Now, competition is great. So I say if it's not going to hurt, yeah, you bring somebody like that in because, again, competition is what it is. And if he can
Yeah.
help us, then he can help us. Then you bring somebody like that in. But to bring him in, or the word on the street was we're bringing him in to spell Najee. I'm like, well, hold on a second. Let's pump the brakes a little bit. First of all, is Kareem Hunt even going to be happy in that role? Because that's why he wanted out of Cleveland, is because he thought
Yep.
that he was better or should have gotten more time than Nick Chubb, which I think is insane to even bring that
Yeah.
to anybody's attention. But
Yeah.
that's a different conversation for another day. But
Yeah.
that's why he wanted out of Cleveland. He asked for a trade at the beginning of last year, and they just wouldn't do it. So
Yeah.
bringing him in, I don't know. Again, competition is great, but people sleep on how good Warren is. He does
I,
everything well that you want a running back to do.
and that's in my opinion, all these media analysts that are saying, "Oh, the Steelers need another one," they didn't watch the games.
They didn't watch the
They
games.
didn't. They're
Nope.
just looking at stats,
That's right.
and that's where you get the lazy reporting.
That's right.
I think Colin Coward's a national Steelers hater, and then I believe it was Jason McIntyre,
Yep.
the guy that sits at the little desk. He was telling them all about the Steelers and everything like
Yes.
that. So he's kind of turned his thinking around about the
Correct.
Steelers, which I used to enjoy watching him, by the way. And then because he was a big Steelers guy, and then all of a sudden it changed, and then he just he
Well, I know what happened. Coward needed something to talk about with the Steelers, so
yeah
he turned into a Tomlin hater. And that's
yeah
what he did. He turned into a big Mike Tomlin
mm-hmm,
hater and to get eyeballs, I think, or to get clicks,
yeah
whatever it is. And now he's switched it 100% because he's like, well, heck, I can't be a Tomlin hater. You see what this guy is doing and coaching these teams up? So I can't be a Tomlin hater. Whatever you want to say about Mike Tomlin, like he's not good at X's and O's, blah, blah, blah. What I do know is he's a leader of men and guys respond to him. So you can't be a Tomlin hater and be out there in the national media. That's just not going to play.
yeah. And this is kind of off topic, but like throw this by you.
Yeah.
Obviously, we drafted Chase Claypool a few years ago,
Yeah.
but I really wanted Jalen Hurts because I thought his attitude, like his mannerisms and the way he represented himself,
Yep.
complimented Mike T.
100%.
Yeah, but I think we got the next best. I think we got the second best quarterback. No, I'm not even gonna say second best. I think we got the best quarterback now
For
because
our
we did
team.
get. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, the story behind it, him, obviously he was from Jersey,
Yeah.
but going to Pitt for 5 years, watching the Steelers, watching the prime Ben and AB and everything like that. And now looking back at it, thankfully we drafted Chase Claypool because now we got Joey Porter Jr.
Absolutely. It's one of the biggest fleeces in that I can remember. I'm like,
Yeah,
look, all these people that talked about Claypool, and I was one of them. Like, man, he's got to get better. Like, but
yeah,
he never got separation. Every catch was always contested. I'm
yeah.
like,
He
my
jump ball, he's
goodness.
catching it in his chest.
Yes,
Yeah,
he's catching jump balls in his chest. I'm like, God, this guy, okay. And I go for Chicago to give us the 32nd pick for him. I'm like, you know what? I will 100% take. I have no idea what they're thinking, but God bless them because we
Omar was
got
on the
better.
phone. Omar was on the phone. I was like, okay, what are you guys gonna offer? 30-second pick deal. Hung
Yes,
up.
absolutely. Immediately, he said yes. Man, so looking around and moving back to or moving to the defense. Look, the Steelers upgraded. I'm a guy, Caleb, that I know he lost Cam Sutton. I wasn't
hmm
that big on Cam Sutton. He
Not for that
played
money that
well,
he got.
but I just was not that big on Cam Sutton. Again, I've been a Steelers fan since I was 2 years old, and I am
hmm
47. I watch the games. I
Yeah,
don't know where this big, hey, he's a shutdown corner. No, he wasn't. I'm not saying he played bad. He played good. But
yeah,
if Patrick Peterson, I think what he did at Minnesota, even though he's 32 years old, I get all of that. But if he can give us what he gave Minnesota last year, that's better than what Cam Sutton did. And I think that's what the quiet part that nobody's saying out loud. If he can just do that with what we have coming in, I think the defense can be better.
yeah. No, I 100% agree. And I think the thing with Sutton, I think it was like we finally drafted a corner. You know, it took him 5 years to
Right.
get there, but we got him.
And
But
yeah,
for the money that he got in Detroit, yeah,
they
he
could have
wasn't
them.
worth it. If it was $3 or $4 million less,
Yes,
I would have been okay, yeah. But
that's
we got
right.
Patrick Peterson out of the deal, and if you would have told me 10 years ago Patrick Peterson would have been a Steeler at some point, I'd have been ecstatic.
Absolutely.
Um,
And I
and
get it.
then
I get it. I get it that he's
yeah,
32. I understand he's not what he once was. But again, the season he had in Minnesota last year was better than what Cam Sutton did.
but here's the thing though. They said the same things about Charles Woodson when he went to Green Bay. Guess how old he was when he won Defensive Player of the Year?
Absolutely.
And this is
Absolutely.
and what the and and that's sadly no, actually that wasn't the year we lost the Super Bowl. No, yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it
Troy
was.
won.
Troy
I
won it
thought
that
Troy,
year.
yeah, and I think Woodson won it the next year.
Right.
I believe. I know he won it at some point, but yeah, because Woodson broke his arm in the Super Bowl that year, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think Tomlin sees what Woodson did in Green Bay, and he's going to implement that with because Green Bay was using Woodson all over the field that year,
Yep.
and I mean, he's gone out and said it on his podcast with BMAC that they're moving him all over the place. We're going to see him at safety, we're going to see him at slot, we're going to see him on outside, we'll see him in the dime. I mean, he's going to get work, and
Absolutely.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see those interception numbers that he had last year, and hopefully double digits.
Yes,
Hopefully,
absolutely. I just think there's a lot of things that we'll be able to do with what we have and some of the depth that we have. They'll be able to move him around and capitalize on what he has left. I think we'll be able to get every ounce of that left. One
yeah.
thing, however, that might be a glaring weakness that we didn't upgrade is at middle linebacker. At
Are
middle
you sure?
linebacker,
Are you sure?
I think I'm sure. I don't know. Let me just take this back. I'm not saying that we didn't upgrade because look, I'm the biggest Devin Bush hater that I think any Steeler fan was because I just looked and I'm like, first of all, last year he didn't try. I mean, that was easy to see. He was not trying. And it started early in the season. I saw the interview. I think every Steeler fan saw the interview where they asked him what he thought about not getting extended. And his response was, well, I'm still going to be in the NFL. So what difference does it make? I think the Steelers should have either traded him or cut him right then. They
Yeah,
didn't. But yeah, I just once he got hurt, he didn't come back the right way, and he was never the same, and that's too bad. But you know what? We're a Steeler organization. We got to move on. So
yeah,
I get what you're saying as far as what they did, what the guys were. Maybe we didn't upgrade. I just don't know that we have what should I say? I mean, you don't have to have top tier players at every position. So I don't
Yeah,
want to get out there and say that. But I think if there's a hole on the Steelers defense, it's middle linebacker.
yeah. I would. I think Benton's going to be good at nose tackle, but I
Yeah,
would still.
absolutely.
I would still like until he proves himself. That it's going to be that the middle linebackers and nose tackle that are going to be up in the air for me.
Right.
But looking back at Devin Bush's career, he had one season of Tyson Alualu where he was really good.
Yes.
And that was Devin Bush's best season because the middle linebacker's best friend is a dominant nose
Absolutely.
tackle.
Absolutely.
And I know Cam shuffles in, but he's obviously everybody knows he is far better in his three technique, five technique.
Yep.
At
When
the
we go to the
defensive end,
nickel and he plays the three technique, he is much better. Much better.
yes, yes. And then I think Benton can be that guy. And then, but we'll go back to the middle linebackers before I get off track. Um, I really like Cole Holcomb and
Okay.
Elandon Roberts. I think Roberts won 2 Super Bowls with the that team we don't talk about up
Right.
north. um, but yeah, I mean he's a veteran. He's a leader. Um, I mean, I'm friends with Demarcus Ayers, and they were college teammates. He has nothing but great things to say about him.
Okay.
Um, I think he's going to be like we have. Here's another thing: we have leaders at every single position group
We do
now.
have that.
Every single position group,
Absolutely.
even and if you like, I know Holcomb was hurt last year,
Mm-hmm.
but before that, he was a perfect Mike Tomlin guy. He's a guy with a chip on his shoulder. I believe he went undrafted, if I'm not mistaken. If not, he was a day 3 pick. So
Mm-hmm.
he has that chip on his shoulder. He hits hard. He plays fast. Um, and then another thing, as far as the linebackers go, I consider Keanu Neal as that hybrid. I think everybody does, but he played linebacker in Dallas.
You sure
And
did.
those dime situations, we're not going to have Robert Spillane out there anymore.
Correct.
It's probably going to be Keanu Neal in the middle of the field with any Landon Roberts or Cole Holcomb.
That'll make a
Which
huge difference.
yes, I 100% agree. And then you got the Monte Casey out there, and then don't sleep on the Steelers potentially going to get Reuben Foster out of the USFL because
I've been hearing a lot of that, man. I don't hate it. I literally don't hate it. I know a lot of people talk and say that he's an issue, and we know all of his issues. I said, but people change, and it's been a little
mm-hmm,
bit too. And from what I saw, him playing, the guy can still play football.
yes.
Now, is that going to translate to the NFL? We don't know, but I 100% think that it's worth a training camp, you know, bring him in and see what he can do. I absolutely think that it's worth that. And if he can help us, he can help us because from what I saw, the guy can still play football.
Yeah, he's like watching. I didn't watch many Pittsburgh Maulers games. I watched the championship obviously because Derwin was playing in it, and I was rooting for him. But he just played so fast. He
Yeah.
still hits like a brick house. I mean, it shows. I mean, he dominated at USFL level, and to make it into the NFL,
Yes.
you need to dominate at that kind of level.
Correct.
And Derwin did the same thing. He had 0 QB hits allowed and 0 sacks allowed in the entire season. So I expect he should get a call, in my opinion,
Right.
as well as Reuben Foster. Hopefully, it's with us. I know Vince Williams went out and said that he thinks the Steelers are going to make that move. And if that pans out, and then Mark Robinson, develops like we think
Yep.
and hear that he is developing, like those two together damage whenever their time is here to be the everyday starters at linebacker. Because I mean, Mark Robinson, obviously we know, super athletic, hits like a brick house, and it's more optimistic about the middle linebackers than most.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I'm one. I'm not. you know what? Maybe I shouldn't say he wasn't as optimistic. I was skeptical. I'm
Yeah.
skeptical. But I think I'm jaded over the last few years of our middle linebacker play. I think that might be a lot of it. Just like a lot of Steeler fans, it's just like, and I thought Miles Jack, oh man, he's been good
Oh,
at
I was so
Jacksonville.
excited.
He's going to come
Yeah.
in. He's going to be good. And again, if you do lazy reporting and look at his stats, oh, he made some tackles. I go, but I watched the games. They're 6 and 7 yards down the field. I go,
Yeah.
so, and guy was out of position a lot. I'm like, oh my goodness, what happened to this guy? So, but I think that's what it is. Just jaded. Let's just
Yeah.
call it that.
And again, I think some of that's to put on the nose tackle position,
Absolutely.
because obviously if the offensive line's getting a push on the defensive line, then they're making it to the second level, being able to block the um, middle
Absolutely.
linebackers and so forth. But as far as like, I think you get to the defensive line room is stacked.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Between Cam Hayward, Benton, who can play all three positions on the D line. Then you got Montravius Adams. He can also play all three positions on the
Right.
defensive line. You got Larry O. He can play all three positions
Yep.
on the offense. I think that was a huge pickup,
Absolutely.
re-signing him this year. Now he's got a full offseason being healthy. He's not coming off that Liz Frank injury.
Yep.
And he's not going to just be practicing on Fridays like he was during the season last year.
Yep.
We got Leal. He's slept on. God, I think I'm forgetting. Am I forgetting somebody?
Nope.
No. Okay. Yeah. I know. There's a lot in that room,
We're
but
good.
Leal. Yeah.
Yes.
I
Leal
think.
is so much. He is a guy that I think if he does what I believe that he's capable of doing, the Steelers defense is going to be incredible. Again, I mean, we're always good. I mean, for the most part, the Steelers defense is always good. But I think he's the key because he's going to bring added depth that in a lot of years we just didn't have. We have
Yeah.
that. I'm just telling you because Cam Hayward, we can't keep. I mean, the guy's older. We can't have him out there. Although he's older, and this is just a segue. Does it seem to you like he keeps getting better the older that he gets? I mean, he just keeps getting better, and it's crazy how good this guy has become because he was always good. He was always good, but it seems like the last 4 years, to me anyway, it seems like he's gotten better. Like he has gotten better. The guy is literally unblockable, just unblockable. But he is older, and you got to have some depth. I just think the more depth the Steelers have at the defensive line, especially with what we try to do, man, I think we got some good things coming. I think we got good things coming, which leads me to this, and we'll wrap it up. I know this is before training camp. Training camp injuries and everything that happens. But looking around, as far as the record, look, I am a Steelers diehard fan. I have been forever. But I'm also one that's realistic. I get it. But I look at what the Steelers did last year. I look at how they upgraded. I look at what they bring back. I look at the record or the schedule
Mm-hmm.
that we have. I don't see a way that the Steelers don't win 10 football games this year. Now, everything could go off the rails. We could have a ton of injuries and all that kind of stuff. Knock on wood. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But just looking at it at face value, even in the division that we're in, that's tough. We're going to split that at least. That's what the
Yeah.
Steelers do. And then
Mm-hmm.
you look at the rest of the games in that schedule. I don't see the Steelers losing or not winning. I don't think there's a way that they can't win 10 games. Or I shouldn't say that. 10 wins, I think, is right there for us to take. Easily
Yeah.
for us to take.
My guess was at best we see 11 or 12 wins. I think
Yes.
at worst we see 10. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no way they're not better than they were last year.
Absolutely.
Like you say, barring any injuries, let me knock on this wood
There you go.
right here. Yeah, I mean, God, they were, and if TJ doesn't get hurt last year, they're a playoff team.
Absolutely.
We don't lose to the Jets. We don't lose
Nope.
to the Patriots.
Nope.
And
I
I
don't
still
even know if
think,
we lose to the Dolphins.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, that one was just, yeah. As long as everybody's healthy and we get hot at the right time, I mean, I think we finally see a playoff win this year.
Yeah,
And depending on how the secondary looks, we might be able to compete with the. We know we can compete with Cincinnati. That's
correct.
division. We can always compete with them. Granted, sometimes when we lose, it's a little lopsided, but sometimes it just seems the players aren't motivated, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean it's football, National Football League. It is what it is. But Cincinnati's really good too. Let's not
Yeah,
kid ourselves. I mean they're really good. But at the same time, I mean the Steelers, they're going to compete with everybody in the division. They're going to
yeah.
compete with Baltimore. They're going to compete with Cincinnati. They're going to compete with Cleveland. Look, Cleveland is going to be better. Let's just face it. With Deshaun Watson, if he comes back and plays like the 2020 version of Deshaun Watson, Cleveland's going to be really good too. Now, if he
Well,
plays like the
if
rusty Deshaun Watson of last year, that's a different conversation.
if
So
he plays like 2020 Deshaun Watson, that means they're going to go 4-12 or whatever the scheme is, because that's what they went in 2020 in Houston.
they did.
Whenever he threw for all those
They
yards.
did. They did. But he was good. He was good. They just didn't have. They had zero defense in Houston. But the division is obviously. I think it's the toughest division in football. I know a lot of people say the
Yeah,
AFC East. I think that our division is the. Now I can be biased, but that's okay. But at the same time, I think the Steelers are going to compete in that division. I think it's going to be a really, really good season. Like I said, barring any injuries or anything crazy like that, to key positions. I think the Steelers are set up for a lot of success this year. A lot of success.
yeah, I agree, and I think it's a team that could, like I said, if they get hot at the right time, they can compete with the Kansas City Chiefs with the way the defense and secondary is laid out. Obviously, the best way to beat the Chiefs is with a dominant pass rush, and look at what we have, and we have a young, up and coming offense that for them is top five with all the talent they have. It's just going to be what they do with it.
Correct.
That gets them there. Obviously, the defense should be top two, and they shouldn't be two. So, yeah, I think the sky's the limit this year. I think they can pull it out and win a Super Bowl. I mean, they need to. Cam needs a ring. Cam needs it. He
Yeah.
deserves it.
Yeah, it's time that the Steelers get back to the winning ways in the playoffs and being a team that is feared. Now, I think a lot of teams they see Steelers on the schedule, but they don't fear us like they used to just because we haven't been as dominant as what we have been in previous years. And it's time that the Steelers get back to that. I do like the way that they built the roster, that they didn't knee jerk and panic like a lot of teams did. Hey, our division's really, really good, and now all of a sudden we're going to go throw all this money at these overpriced free agents. Steelers didn't do that. Now, they usually never do that. Don't get me wrong, but they didn't trade up, 20 picks for somebody or trade 3 future draft picks to go move up. They didn't do any of that crazy stuff. They just said, this is how we're going to build our roster. We need to improve the line. We need to improve both sides of the line. We need secondary and linebacker help. The Steelers did that. I just think that the way that they are put together, I think the Steelers are put together to have a really good season, man. I do. Thank you, Kaleb, for taking the time, man, for being with us today. Tell everybody where they can find you, my man.
Me on Twitter at Kaleb, KalebDGAF. On Twitter, you can go to the SteelerNation.com site and you can find me on there. You click on the picture, it'll take you straight to. I think it takes you straight to my Twitter. And then you can find our 3-point stance YouTube videos on the Steeler Nation multimedia page. And yeah, I mean, other than that, you can find me anywhere that my name is attached to, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for taking the time to join us today, and we will 100% have you back on Big B Sports Talk, man. Thank you.